All right. What's up, kiddo?
What's up?
Are you excited for high school?
I'm excited and I'm very scared, but I think it's gonna be good.
Are you excited for this podcast?
Yes, I'm actually really excited. I did a lot of studying.
Yeah.
I watched a documentary I really didn't want to for this, so.
All right. All right. Took it seriously.
Yes.
I'm excited. Okay. So today, I'm going to tell you the story of Michelle Vanek. And my sources are really heavily from Colorado 14er Disasters by Mark Scott Nash, the third edition, and a bunch of Denver Post and Channel 9 reports and articles, as well as some Reddit articles. Michelle was a 35-year-old woman, an athlete. She did like the occasional marathon, so she was really fit.
Runner.
Right? She lived in Lakewood, Colorado, and
Hey.
I couldn't find out really if she was a native or not, but I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't like search for it too hard. Okay. So she was a mother of 4 and married to a man named Ben Vanek. I also didn't do a ton of research on him, and in hindsight maybe I should have, because, you know, husband and all, but whatever. But I did look into her hiking partner, Eric Sawyer. Eric and his wife, as well as Michelle and Ben, hung out sometimes, although Eric's wife and Ben really had no interest in hiking 14ers. Michelle had shown a little bit of interest, and Eric kind of was like, let's do it. So Eric was the one that suggested Mount Holy Cross, and from many accounts, he was the one who planned the hike. And Michelle trusted his judgment, as he had ascended 37 14ers before this. 37 14ers before this hike. Over half. He informed her of what she would need and how they, you know, like the style they were going to hike in, so like how much weight they were going to have and that kind of their pace. So now that I've hiked a little bit, my own experiences, I'm no pro, but I do want to say I wouldn't choose this as a first 14er.
No, I remember you talking about it too when you hiked it.
But back when me and Dominic hiked a lot, we were really fit and in shape, and this was Dominic's first 14er, just like Michelle. So there are a few ways to get up Holy Cross. Okay, have you seen pictures of the mountain?
Yes.
Okay. There's the North Ridge and the Halo Ridge in the summer, as well as the Cross Courier in the winter. When Dom and I hiked Holy Cross, we ascended on the North Ridge and descended the Halo Ridge. So we came up one side and went all the way around the mountain ridge down the other side. And there are 3 13ers on the Halo Ridge, and we chose to summit the North Ridge first because we didn't want, if we got to the top of the North Ridge and we wanted to turn around, or we didn't feel like going to do the other 3 13ers that are required, then we could just turn around and go back down the North Ridge, which is, by most accounts, the standard route.
Yeah.
As it turns out, we decided to continue, and we went the whole way. Mm-hmm. And oddly, some of the same red flags in Michelle's story hit pretty close to home, I think, for us. So Michelle and Eric set out in September of 2005 from Half Moon Pass. They didn't start hiking until 7 a.m., which maybe is nothing to some, like, experienced hikers, but that seems
A little late.
super late for me. I've always learned to be off the mountain by 11, or at least heading towards tree line by 11 a.m. for lightning, and 7 a.m. I don't know that I would
Start so late.
I don't know that I would be fast enough. The Halo Ridge is about 15 miles round trip and back, and if you hiked it like Dominic and I did in a circle around the ridge line, it's about 16 miles. But their plan was to hike the North Ridge out and back, which is 11 miles, and not to continue on the ridge line to the Halo Ridge. Can you get the visual?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So right from the start, there was a litany of bad decisions being made. Eric left his water filter and his lunch in the car.
Ooh.
And Michelle was already complaining of a headache when they got to the trailhead. And unfortunately, Eric led them up the wrong path. So instead of heading up the North Ridge, they started up the Halo Ridge. Nowadays, you have all sorts of tools for navigation, but even with those tools, when you hike these mountains, you know how to read a map.
Yes.
Right? Like, you study it, you look at it. When you're hiking these mountains out here in Colorado, you learn how to read a topo map, which is just a map that like, elevation gain. It seems like a silly mistake, if you have a map, to maybe at least pull it out and take a look at it, right? But I suppose accidents really do happen, and I really don't want to be biased about this story. So instead of 11 mile-ish in one summit, they were headed for 3 13ers and a 14er and over 5,000 feet of elevation gain on a 15 to 16 mile hike.
And this was her first 14er, right?
This was her first 14er.
Yeah.
So she is athletic, but this seems like a lot as a first 14er. One maybe would think that they would turn around when they realized this mistake, but they don't. In later interviews and stuff, it sort of seems like Eric might have had summit fever.
Which is?
Like when you're desperate to check this summit off your list. Like
yes, doesn't matter what happens.
He needs to get to the top no matter what. This is a goal. I mean, I want to say that maybe I'd be more rational.
It's just hard to know, like, when the decision comes, but I feel like, I don't know, I obviously haven't climbed a 14er, but I feel like in any situation, especially if it's, like, your significant other and you want them to have, like, the best possible time doing something that you love, you would be a bit more cautious. She was already saying that her head was hurting and stuff. I would just think, I personally, like, if this is something that I enjoy doing and I want my significant other to also enjoy doing it, I would want them to actually enjoy it, not, like, do more than expected, have a headache, like...
But they aren't together. This is...
Oh, I'm really confused.
This is two people that are married to other people, and they're just mutual friends.
Oh. Well, still, it's not even your spouse then. You're, like, taking care of your friend's girl. Like, you just want them to have a good time. It kind of goes back to what I was saying. You just want them to have a good time, and there was just a lot of decisions that ultimately indicated to not having a good time.
Yeah, it seems like after you've hiked 37 of these, you would recognize...
Yeah, the signs, you know?
At least some signs. You'd recognize something. So they reached the ridgeline around 11:30, and it's hard to say what Michelle's state of mind was. Like, I've been there. It's magical. Like, when you're up there, you just want to be up further. Like, you want to get to the highest point. So it could have been a state of mind of, like, she's in the same mode. But I had all the hard parts behind me. She has 2 more 13ers and a 14er in front of her.
Yes.
So, and about 1,000-foot elevation gain. There's a really cool shelter on this ridgeline, and Eric accounts that they stopped for about 15 minutes to rest, but they wanted to summit, so they continued along. This route also requires you to be at 13,000 feet for at least 3 miles, and a lot of things can happen to a healthy brain at high altitudes for prolonged periods of time. Altitude sickness, acute mountain sickness, your brain just doesn't receive the same amount of oxygen as it does normally. And it affects everyone differently. And Eric says that he had to stop multiple times for Michelle and wait as she was starting to move slowly, which could have been a sign. The headaches, I think she was prone to have migraines is what a couple of them said. But, I mean, high altitude, so you got to be careful. So after they had summited 3 13ers, and they were about 500 feet from the summit, and Michelle decided at 1:25 that she was done. Eric then told her to traverse to the north side of the mountain so that they wouldn't have to re-summit all those 13ers on their way back down, and they would just come down the north ridge. So kind of the opposite way me and Dominic did it.
I see.
And just wait for Eric at the other side of the mountain, and he's gonna summit and then meet her over there. So they're gonna split up.
Yeah, I immediately don't like this.
They're gonna split up. I just want to mention right here that this is Eric's account. No one hiked the Halo Ridge that day. just Eric and Michelle hiked the
Yeah.
Halo Ridge. So this is 100% Eric's account from 7 o'clock in the morning until the end of the day. So Eric heads off to check another peak, and Michelle heads in the direction of the North Ridge. Michelle is never seen again. Eric, however, summits shortly after 1:42, and by the account of hikers that are already on the peak, he makes 2 phone calls, doesn't sign the registry, which isn't that weird. I've never signed a registry.
Yes.
It does seem a little strange how quickly he ascended 500 feet to the summit, but he could be in amazing shape and have amazing pace.
He had done many before too, you said, right?
Yeah. And so, but he reached the summit in 17 minutes from the point that he left Michelle and climbed. He reached there. And so the two other hikers briefly speak with Eric before he heads down the mountain at 1:47. So he only stayed on the summit of this mountain for 5 minutes. Now, the book of Colorado 14ers Disasters by Mark Scott Nash that I mentioned earlier lays out a really good timeline of Michelle and Eric's entire day. And in this timeline, it explains that, according to Eric, in his account, they hiked at a faster pace above 13,000 feet when the terrain was harder and higher, and when Eric reported that Michelle was slowing down, than at a lower elevation on the trail, which for many reasons doesn't make any sense, right? The way he described the timeline in their pace, they would have had a couple lost hours early in the morning.
So they were going faster than they should have been?
So they were going slower on the easier parts of the trail and faster on the ridgeline.
Okay.
When he reported her slowing down. Got what I'm saying? Okay. So it seems like the math wasn't mathing on that, but you can go and read that book to get like a better description of what I'm trying to say. The hikers that were already on the summit when Eric arrived started to descend shortly after, and they find Eric not far from the summit, about 600 feet from the summit on the north side, shouting Michelle's name. He told them of Michelle's plan to traverse to the North Ridge and then stated that she was not on the trail. According to the other pair of hikers, they reached about 600 feet below, according to a second pair. So there were 2 pairs. There was one that was up on the summit when he ascended, and then there's one that's coming up to the summit.
Yes.
At about 2:30. They summited, hung out on the peak for a half an hour, and when they came down, he was still in the spot, distressed, requested their help finding them. They finally convinced him to call for help around 4:15, so almost 3 hours after anyone had seen Michelle. This set of hikers camped on the mountain, which many people do to break up it's a long hike.
Yes.
And that night they recounted when they got to their campsite that there was another campsite with a really bright glowing fire that could be seen for miles. So one would think that if Michelle was lost, she would have made her way towards that campsite.
Yes.
The traverse was from the Halo Ridge to the North Ridge was actually about a mile with no cairns to guide her. And do you know what cairns are?
No.
They're the stacks of rock along the sides of the trail.
I see.
Okay. We'll get into theories about what happened, but it's completely plausible that she got lost.
Yeah.
When Dominic and I were descending the Halo Ridge after the second 13er started down like kind of a boulder field the wrong way, and we spent a good 2 hours trying to make our way back up to the ridge line.
Yeah.
After getting cliffed out and kind of retracing our steps so that we didn't end up falling. And on the other side of the peak, there are many places to do the same thing. It was scary, and I'm glad that we had the wherewithal to climb back up to the ridgeline and safely find the trail to descend. But if we had had altitude sickness, or even in our exhaustion decided to just climb down, we definitely could have had a serious mistake. So it's serious out there. It's real. So over the span of 7 days, 5 helicopters and around 800 searchers with dog teams searched over 10,000 hours for Michelle. And unfortunately, they were unsuccessful. Eric later said that he had a bad feeling about the day from the start. It's a recipe for disaster is what he called it. With that in mind, you would think that he would have trusted his instinct. I have had to turn around and descend in disappointing manner just to avoid a storm, or because I recognized that I was exhausted and needed to be at a lower elevation. With as much knowledge and experience as Eric had, you would think
he would just see the signs more, I feel.
Yeah. With that, I'm going to get into theories. The first theory is obviously that she got lost. Totally plausible, likely, considering the terrain and state of mind she was in. I don't want to say the state of mind she was in, actually, because she had the state of mind to decide that she couldn't summon.
Yeah.
So she had knowledge of what her body was doing and how she was feeling. So I don't, that doesn't fit, but definitely something that's happened many times on this mountain, by the way. Like in that book, the Colorado 14ers disaster, I think I read like 11 accounts of people that have gone missing on this mountain just alone since the 60s. So I mean, it's a scary mountain, lots of wilderness, hard terrain. They also found a watch on day 2 of the search that could have been left as a trail marker by Michelle, but I kind of think that it's strange that it wasn't like identified as her watch by her husband. Like, that is Michelle's watch, she left it here, I know it. That,
or like somebody would have known she was wearing it. I don't think it could have been hers, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like somebody knew what type of watch she wore regularly. Yes. You would be able to pick out my watch.
Yeah, exactly.
On the 3rd day of the search, a storm hit, and what Michelle had with her, it would be unlikely that she would survive that storm, but they continued to search.
Yes.
Now, the next couple of theories suggest foul play. So I just want to make it clear that I'm not accusing anyone. I'm simply talking theoretically. On day 1 of the search, some volunteers came across a man who tried to hide from them, hide his face, acted strange, avoided eye contact when asked about Michelle, and then he took off down the mountain. They found a campsite with a lantern on in the tent. When asked to speak or open the tent, whoever was inside decided to stay quiet and not unzip the tent and not speak. The next morning, a man that roughly fit the description of the cagey guy that was seen hiking out of Cross Creek and approached by officials. He was reluctant, but showed him his tent, which also kind of, I think one account was orange, one account was yellow. It seems like that's not... but they couldn't get an answer from the occupant, that tent. It sort of matched that one. So the man was eventually identified as living in the area and was not investigated due to lack of evidence, and he didn't have any connection to Michelle.
There would be no reason, but...
He was elusive and cagey and weird, eventually left. On the 28th or so, 3 days into the search, they found a duffel bag with a shotgun near the Cross Creek Trail, which was not far from where the mystery man's campsite was. Ooh. Right? Investigators said that he was suspicious, but they really had nothing. So another theory is, again, obviously, Eric. So I believe that there are a few theories on the Eric front. One theory is that Eric himself was obsessed with hiking and Michelle. Maybe he had hiked the area beforehand, knew what mistakes to make this all seem like a crazy mishap on the mountain, and he brought Michelle to a secluded area and killed her, hid her body well, and as an experienced hiker could manage the terrain, probably with Michelle's body. I went on a deep dive on Reddit and found one user who claimed that their mother was friends with Michelle, and in the 2 weeks between deciding to hike Holy Cross and actually hiking Holy Cross, which I think it was actually like 10 days or something, like it wasn't a full 2 weeks, Michelle had sent a number of emails claiming that Eric was being pushy and dismissive of her concerns, and she was experiencing apprehension about going with him. She also claimed that Eric clearly had a crush on her and would say inappropriate things to her while planning the trip. Although this is all unfounded, it seems a little too like true crimey to not bring it up. Also, his timeline doesn't make sense And all those mistakes that had been made seems like they could have been chalked up to summit fever, but when you start an 11-mile hike, at the very least, you bring your water.
Yes.
Just saying. The theory also would account for the few hours that doesn't match in Eric's timeline if he was obsessed with Michelle and had a crush on her. This, unfortunately, we know is a recipe for murder. So, Eric also moved away from Colorado since then, lawyered up, and never interviewed after those first few days. So, the other theory, Eric theory too, which is similar, but it kind of involves the husband. As most of us new, true crimers know, the husband or the wife, the spouse, the partner is normally first suspect, suspect number one.
Yes.
Ben and Eric were obviously friends. Ben knew of Eric's extensive knowledge of hiking in Colorado terrain and hired him to push Michelle off a cliff. But on September 29th or so, 4 days into the search, a team finds boot prints that lead to the end of a cliff on the western side of Holy Cross. They send a helicopter to look out there, but they find nothing in the area below. Ben was also a very calm person, and by one friend's account, he landed on the 6th day of searching. They had to remove Eric because they were afraid of what Ben might do to him, which just seems a little over the top.
A little odd.
But everybody kind of processes things differently, and
yes.
There would probably be some anger there.
I know I would be very upset.
Angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't particularly believe that Eric was trying to kill Michelle. I know that he did have a crush on her and whatnot, and I think that combined with his summit fever, he just really wanted to bond and do this with her, and I think it truly clouded his judgment. But at the same time, he had done 37 mountains before this, so there's not really, he has to understand the health violations that this was leading to.
So you're saying accidental?
Yeah, but it definitely could have been prevented. Not obviously accidents do happen, but this one could have ultimately been prevented.
Okay, I've got a couple more theories.
Okay.
Are you ready for them? Another theory is that Ben, Eric, and the mystery man were all in on it from the start. And the only reason I come up with this theory is because you don't normally find a shotgun in a duffel bag. A kill kit on a mountain where somebody is disappeared normally means it was used, right? I who knows? But Eric and Ben concocted this elaborate plan to deliberately make the hike unbearable. Mystery Man followed him up the mountain, and at some point when she was left alone, she was shot with a shotgun, and the men either threw her off a cliff or whatever, never to be found, or hid her under some boulders. Now, this theory again would account for the lost couple of hours early on in the hike. According to his timeline, they would need a few hours to hike the trail, commit this heinous act, hide the body, and then summit the mountain. I say Ben is a part of this theory because I believe that if Eric killed her himself without Ben's knowledge, he would have wanted to do that himself, not hire someone to do it. I think he had different motives, and he wouldn't have hired somebody else to do it. So, finally, the last theory, Mystery Man, who was later identified as a man who lived nearby. I'm not going to name him, but you can look it up if you're interested. It could be that Michelle really did get lost and made her way down the mountain towards the glow of the fire. It seems to reason that she was thinking somewhat clearly. If she had that knowledge to stop, right, before the summit, it's likely that she made her way to her lower elevation knowing that it would help her altitude sickness, her dehydration, her headache, all of it. It's possible that this was just a crime of opportunity. And Michelle stumbled onto this man's camp looking for help and water, and this man decided to take advantage of that. He would have knowledge of the mountain. He would know that she was alone and in distress. I mean, how many crimes rely heavily on vulnerability? Yeah. The man had, at the time, it is not noted anywhere that he summited, and he stated to investigators that he was just camping, so he had the time. This, I believe, is the most likely theory. Although it's hard to believe all the mistakes that Eric made. Yeah. I've only summited half the mountains, half the 14ers that Eric had. But when this it's just hard to believe that he planned this entire trip and he's the only one that had a say in planning it, and then this horrible thing happened.
Yes.
People die out there, and because of it you take precautions, and it's sus that he didn't call before 4 p.m. It's sus that he took the wrong route. And I guess I should note here that there was construction at the trailhead, and that's where both the trailheads are. But again, if you have a map, you look at it, when uncertainty arrives, even the experienced. So it's sus that he didn't have enough water. It's sus that he planned everything with no one else. But I have to say again, it's completely plausible that she got lost, and the mountain decided to keep her. So now, 20 years later, it's been reported that they found a boot believed to be Michelle's in 2022, and in this past year a piece of red shirt and a climbing pole, also believed to be Michelle's, were found by a team of all women investigators that are also having a backpack forensically tested to be matched to Michelle. I brought up the all women because someone involved in the case had a dream that she doesn't want to be found by a man.
Oh, that's
a little I mean, after 20 years, I would just want to be found.
Yeah, at that point.
I chose this mountain. I've hiked it before. We got lost. We ran out of water. Our phones died. Thankfully, there was clear weather on the July 4th, the year that we went out, because we were still on the ridge around 3 p.m. when some gnarly-looking clouds came rolling in. But we made it. We came back to the ridge line. We finished climbing down. It was 18 miles. It took us 20 hours. I was so sunburnt, I'm pretty sure I got heat stroke, and I tried to eat a buffalo chicken sandwich, and it burned my lips. So we ran out of food and finally made it to the car by 8 p.m. I'll never forget talking to Sean that night.
Oh, this hike, I remember.
And he lectured me about how unsafe it was to be above tree line at this time of day, and you guys had gone to the Rapids game.
Yes.
With him and watched the fireworks. Do you remember that?
I remember. I thought you were talking about the hike where the people you were hiking with, I think it was Sean, they decided to go a different way in a different trail, and you guys did end up splitting up.
No, that was Quandary Peak.
That's a different story.
That's a different story. The mountains are amazing and beautiful. They've given me strength and courage beyond what I thought I could do. But there are a dark side to these mountains. So what do you think? You think it was an accident?
Okay, well, after what you've been saying, I reflect a little bit, and I do have to admit, Eric made too many mistakes, plus the evidence of this weird crush that she had on her and whatnot. I don't want to accuse anything, because no matter which way it played out, it was traumatic for all parties and all of the accused in this situation. But then there's also the problem of the gun in the bag near the creepy man. That couldn't be a coincidence either. I don't know. In the way that what's her name, Michelle? Mm-hmm. Michelle's things were spread out, they found her boot, they found a piece of her cloth, I don't really know what it could have been, but it's tragic, really. It was her first 14er. I just think, honestly, all in all, one thing I do know that can 100% be confirmed is that Eric could have taken a lot more precautions for his safety, Michelle's safety, just for all parties. A lot of things could have been done to prevent this, no matter what way it played out.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. I think that I personally think that it was a crime of opportunity. That's my personal theory. I've only done so much research on it. I'm not a cop. I don't know. But it all seems a little sus, and it is a huge tragedy. And sorry for her family, her children,
yes,
her husband, her loved ones. I'm pretty sure she had siblings. I know her father spent a lot of money trying to find her. Not that accounts, not that measures his love. It doesn't. But I know that she was very loved, and it's a sad story. So yes. I'm going to steal from American History X here and end my story with a quote as to go out strong. The summit is what drives us, but the climb itself is what matters. Conrad Aiker.
I like that.
Hey, thanks for making it to the end. My name is Angela Danielle, and my daughter Kat and I have talked a long time about doing a podcast. We tell each other stories that we're interested in all the time, and although we have completely different interests, so our stories will be vastly different from one another, we are completely invested in each other's interests. I wanted to recognize a podcast that I listened to after I recorded this. It's called Locations Unknown, and they do the story of Michelle Vanek as well. They have a lot less skepticism and obviously did a lot more research. If you like this story, I urge you to go check them out. It's a different perspective on a story that I've read so much about, and I truly respect how they told Michelle's story and their respect for Michelle. I listen to true crime a lot, and I guess I'm just more apt to believe the worst in people. I would like to make it very clear that the Reddit post that is mentioned in this story is completely unfounded and not considered in the official investigation. I'd also like to say that both Michelle's husband Ben and her hiking partner Eric were completely cleared and not considered suspects in the case. It is the investigators' belief that there is no foul play. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for listening to Piece Together Podcast.